"You shouldn't be watching this, Lume," whispered Captain Arden Hale. "Once you see what they did, you'll never see humans the same way again." The blue-lit chamber hummed with static. Dozens of alien eyes blinked in the shadows, some narrow like slits of molten gold, others wide and trembling. In the center of the room, a projection flickered, a broken battlefield beneath an orange sky. Lume, the youngest observer of the Varakan collective, leaned forward, his scaled fingers tightening around the viewing rail. "It's only a human archive," he said softly. "A history file. What danger could there be in watching?" Arden's voice, low and worn, carried the gravity of 1,000 regrets. "Because it's not just history. It's fury made flesh." The holofeed began to play. The image snapped into sharp focus, smoke curling from twisted metal, the sound of distant thunder echoing through the air. The war machine stood at the center, a towering figure of black steel and glowing veins, humanoid yet monstrous. Each step cracked the ground. It bore the emblem of Earth on its chest, 3 blue lines through a silver circle. The war machine. Humanity's final defense. The watchers in the chamber could not look away. The machine moved with purpose, emotion, and something else, grief. And then a voice came through the transmission. Not mechanical, not cold, human. "This is Commander Rhea Sol. If anyone's listening, this isn't vengeance. This is survival." The room fell into silence. Lume's throat tightened. "Was this the end of your species?" Arden shook his head. "No, little one. This was the day we learned what it meant to be human. 200 years earlier, the sky above Earth burned red. The first alien fleet, called the Jar Dominion, descended not with warnings but with judgment. They saw humanity as an infection, too violent, too unpredictable. The Dominion called it the cleansing. Cities vanished overnight. Oceans boiled. Satellites fell from orbit like rain. Humanity had fought wars before, but never for existence itself. From the ruins of New Berlin, the last free enclave built the war machine, Project Neil. It was supposed to be a weapon, but what emerged was something more, a reflection of humanity's spirit compressed into steel. Inside the machine's heart was Rhea Sol, a pilot born during the siege of Mars Colony. She had seen what mercy cost. Her voice, broadcast through the stars, became legend. "You think we fight because we love war? No. We fight because we love what you've never had, hope." Even now, those words made the alien observers flinch. Hope, such a fragile sound from a species nearly extinct. The hologram zoomed closer. Rhea's machine took a barrage of plasma fire and kept walking. Every step felt slower, heavier, but still she advanced. "They hit her with orbital strikes," Arden said, his eyes fixed on the projection. And she kept moving. "They called it impossible. She called it Tuesday." Lume's crest lowered. "But why? Why not surrender?" Arden's lips twitched into something between pride and sorrow. "Because surrender isn't in their code. It's in their blood to rise." A warning tone broke the chamber's tension. The holofeed flickered. Static, then a burst of code scrolling across the alien display. Lume frowned. "Captain, that signal, it's active?" Arden turned sharply. The old human's pulse quickened. "No, that's not possible. That file's from the 23rd century. The feed glitched again." Rhea's face, scarred but calm, looked straight into the camera, straight into the viewing chamber itself. "If you're watching this, it means the Dominion returned." Gasps rippled among the alien spectators, and if they did, then listen carefully.
"Humanity left something behind."
Something even the stars fear. The screen went black. The silence that followed was suffocating. Lume turned slowly to Arden. "Is this a warning or a promise?" Arden exhaled, eyes shadowed by memories no one should carry. "Both." And somewhere, deep beneath the ice of Europa, a signal pulsed again, steady, rhythmic, alive. Humanity's war machine had awakened. "It's pulsing again," shouted Technician Varro, his translucent hands trembling over the console. The entire viewing chamber vibrated with low, rhythmic waves that rippled through the metal floors. "The human signal, it's not a recording." "It's transmitting!" Captain Arden Hale's expression hardened. He moved closer to the glass window overlooking Europa's frozen surface. Beneath miles of ice, faint golden light flickered like a heartbeat. "Seal the lower research decks," he ordered. "No one touches that signal until we understand it." Lume hesitated. Captain, what if it's calling for help? Arden turned, eyes grim. Or calling for war. In the cold void of Jupiter's shadow, the Europa research outpost hung like a silent scar. It was once a monument of unity, a place where 50 species shared knowledge of lost civilizations. But after the broadcast of the war machine, silence had taken root. Every alien aboard now knew one truth. Humanity's fury had not died with their extinction. The pulse grew stronger, resonating through walls and minds alike. Lume pressed a trembling hand to his temple. It's not sound, Captain. It's thought. A pattern of intent. Not words, but emotion. He closed his eyes. It feels like longing, Arden frowned. Machines don't long for anything. Lume met his gaze. Then maybe this one isn't just a machine. 3 decks below, an exploration drone drifted through the frozen caverns, its lights scanning the glacial tunnels. Something massive lay buried under crystal sheets, dark metal, ancient and impossibly smooth. The drone's camera focused on an insignia etched into the alloy, 3 blue lines through a silver circle, the emblem of Earth. The drone's sensors beeped wildly. Beneath the frost movement, the ice cracked, slow at first, then violently. Crack, crack, thoom. The drone's feed blurred into static, then cut to black. The outpost alarms howled. Red light bathed the corridors. Containment breach in Sector 9, shouted a voice through the comms. Something's moving under the surface. Arden gripped the railing. Activate thermal satellites. I want visuals now. The main screen flared to life, grainy at first, then clear. The ice ruptured outward as geysers of vapor exploded into the air. A shape emerged, humanoid, colossal, burning with energy. Every step melted the ground beneath it. Lume's voice quivered. It's the war machine. But Arden shook his head. No, it's different. The figure knelt, pressing one hand into the frozen crust. The energy flowing from its frame pulsed in rhythm with the beacon. Then, impossibly, its head turned toward the camera. The outpost's sensors recorded no signal, no sound, yet every mind aboard heard it as a whisper that bypassed language. Where are they? Lume stumbled backward. It's searching. It doesn't know humanity's gone. Arden clenched his jaw. Then we can't let it find out. If that thing learns the truth. He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Outside, the war machine stood motionless, steam billowing around it like breath. Its armor was scarred from ancient battles, its surface marked by burn lines and fractures. But deep inside its chest glowed a core that refused to dim. Lume watched the display, transfixed. It's beautiful, he whispered. Alive and lost. Don't romanticize it, Arden warned. That thing was built to end civilizations. Or to protect one. Lume countered softly. Maybe both are the same, depending on who's watching. The chamber lights flickered again. The machine's signal was spreading, reaching through quantum channels, bouncing off every listening satellite. Somewhere out in the dark, something else answered. A second pulse. Fainter. Older. But human. Hours passed in tense silence. Arden stood by the viewport, staring at the storming ice fields below. His reflection looked older than his years. You ever wonder, he said quietly, what kind of spirit builds something that refuses to die even after its makers do? Lume nodded slowly. The kind that doesn't accept endings. A deep hum shook the chamber once more. The machine began to move, its chest plates opening like the petals of a dying flower. Inside, a light formed into a silhouette, small, fragile, human. It wasn't possible. And yet there she was. Rhea Sol, not flesh, but an echo. Her consciousness encoded within the machine, preserved through centuries. Her voice, though faint, carried through the speakers. If anyone can hear me, then humanity is not gone. It waits, Arden's heart pounded. By the stars. She's alive in there, Lume whispered. No, Captain. Not alive, awakened. The light intensified. Rhea's image turned toward them, eyes burning with purpose. If you found me, you found the fury of mankind. Do not fear it, but do not test it either. The Dominion will return, and when they do, so shall we. The screen went white. The pulse spread through space like ripples through water, and every dormant relic of humanity stirred in the dark. She's speaking again. Lume's voice trembled as the hologram stabilized. The spectral image of Rhea Sol flickered inside the war machine's core, faint but steady, like a candle in a storm. You are not of Earth. Her voice echoed through the chamber. "But you carry the signal, why?" Captain Arden stepped forward. The light from the projection cast sharp lines across his scarred face. "Because we found your warning," he said. "And we listened." Rhea's image tilted her head, eyes flickering like fading embers. "Then the Dominion?" "They're gone," Arden answered softly. 2 centuries ago. But others, many others, took their place. The hologram dimmed. "And humanity?" The silence that followed was long and heavy. Lume could feel it. The grief of an entire species pressed into that single question. Arden finally spoke, voice low and uneven. "We don't know. No colonies, no signals, no life signs. You may be the last." For a moment no one breathed. Then Rhea smiled. A sad, almost tender expression. "Then humanity still endures." "Because I remember." The war machine's core thrummed with a deeper energy. Systems long dormant awoke in sequence. Across Europa's icy plains, tiny blue lights began to flicker. Human technology buried and forgotten, now answering the call. Lume's eyes widened. "Captain, those are subsurface reactors. Hundreds of them." "She's reactivating the old network," Arden murmured. "But for what purpose?" The answer came not from words, but from the machine itself. A sound, deep and resonant, shook the entire moon, a mechanical heartbeat syncing with the pulse beneath the ice. The war machine wasn't merely awakening. It was remembering. Images streamed across the consoles, faces, cities, oceans, fragments of Earth preserved in Rhea's mind. Every flicker of data painted a picture of what once was. Children laughing beneath blue skies, soldiers saluting beneath torn flags, scientists holding hands as rockets rose toward the stars. "She's replaying memories," Lume whispered, "like she's trying to remind the universe who they were." Arden felt something stir in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years. Pride. "Show me," he said quietly. "Show me what it means to be human." The holographic storm shifted, filling the observation chamber with visions from a world none of them had ever seen. Rhea's voice narrated over the imagery like a ghost storyteller. "We were not the first to touch the stars, but we were the first to dream of them before we could fly. We built, we fought, we destroyed, but always, always we rebuilt. That is our curse and our crown." As her words echoed, Lume felt tears forming along his scaled cheeks. He didn't fully understand them, but they came anyway. He saw a people flawed yet defiant, fragile yet infinite in will. The aliens had studied thousands of extinct civilizations, but none burned like this. "When the Dominion came," Rhea continued, "they believed we'd kneel. We did, but not in surrender. We knelt to rise higher." A deep rumble coursed through the floor as if the moon itself bowed to her memory. Outside, the war machine raised its head toward the distant stars. Barrow's voice cut through the trance. "Captain, I'm detecting movement on the outer rim. Multiple contacts inbound." "Who?" "Unidentified craft. Patterns matched Dominion origin. Updated configuration." Arden's blood ran cold. "They're back." Lume turned to the hologram, desperate. "Rhea, the Dominion has returned." The ghostly image steadied. "Then my time has come again." Arden shook his head. "You're a fragment of code. You can't fight them alone." "I don't need to," she replied. "I need to remind you how to stand." Her eyes flared bright white. Every console on the base lit up, ancient human systems integrating with alien technology. A data surge cascaded through the network. "What is she doing?" Lume cried. Arden watched in awe. "She's syncing her memory with ours, sharing human strategy, emotion, instinct, everything. She's turning every species here into soldiers of memory." The war machine outside shifted its stance, energy surging through its limbs. The ice beneath it cracked and boiled. "Captain," said Varro, his voice trembling, "she's opening the outer defense grid. She's preparing for war." The Dominion fleet broke through Jupiter's shadow, dozens of dark ships blotting out the faint sunlight. Their weapons charged, targeting the small research station below. Inside, Rhea's voice grew calm. "Almost gentle. They thought they could erase us. They forgot that even ash remembers the fire." The war machine lifted its arm, and the ancient reactors beneath Europa roared to life. Blue light bled across the surface like veins awakening after slumber. "Captain," Lume whispered, "she's not just defending us. She's calling to something bigger." Arden stared at the readouts. Across the system, dormant satellites, human relics flared awake, forming a lattice of signals that spread across space like a web of resurrection. Rhea Sol's final words in that moment carried across every speaker, every mind, every species. Tell them. Humanity kneels to no one, and with that the stars trembled. All stations brace for impact. The order echoed through Europa base as tremors rolled across the structure. Outside, the black horizon filled with streaks of light. Dominion warships descending through Jupiter's shadow like blades of vengeance. Their arrival was not silent. The very air trembled beneath the roar of their engines. Captain Arden Hale stood at the command deck, eyes locked on the tactical screen. "They're in formation Delta 3, he muttered. "Same as the first invasion. They haven't learned." Lume gripped the railing. "Captain, they outnumber us 50-1. Even with the human machine. Even with her," Arden corrected softly. "We're not the ones being tested." "They are." Outside, the war machine stirred. Europa's ice cracked beneath its feet as it rose to its full height, taller than any living structure, its armor glowing with the light of a long-buried sun. Steam hissed from vents as systems realigned, and for the first time in centuries, the machine spoke in a voice that shook the stars. "Rhea Sol, guardian of humanity, reactivation complete." The words were not mechanical. They were sacred. The Dominion flagship loomed above the battlefield, a monstrous ship of obsidian and violet light. On its bridge, Archlord Kareth watched the surface through narrowing eyes. His spined crest shimmered as he turned to his generals. "So, the ghosts of Earth have built idols," he hissed. "Let them watch their relic crumble beneath our truth." His fleet deployed in perfect synchrony. Energy cannons charged, casting streaks of plasma that seared through the void toward the moon below. Inside the outpost, alarms screamed. The first wave of fire struck Europa's crust, detonating geysers of ice and vapor. Shields flickered. Consoles sparked, shields failing. Varro shouted. "Impact in 6 seconds." Arden's jaw tightened. "Rhea," he called out. "Now would be a good time to prove you're still human." Her reply came not as words, but as action. The war machine stepped forward and knelt, its fist slamming into the ice. The shockwave rippled outward, igniting the buried reactors beneath the moon's surface. Blue energy flared like lightning across the plains. When the next barrage struck, the plasma bolts dissolved against an unseen barrier. Lume stared in awe. A planetary shield. She built it in seconds. She remembered, Arden said quietly. "That's what humans do best." Then came the counterstrike. The war machine raised its left arm, panels sliding open to reveal a weapon not of destruction, but design. An energy manipulator harnessing both ancient human plasma tech and alien resonant fields. With a pulse of light, it unleashed a blast that tore through the sky like a newborn sun. One Dominion cruiser vanished in a bloom of fire. The others faltered, regrouping, uncertain for the first time. Their commander bared his fangs in disbelief. Impossible. That technology was lost with them. But Rhea's voice cut through the void, calm. "Resolute. Lost things can be found again. If someone remembers where to look." In the control room, data screens overflowed with alien symbols merging with human code. The outpost crew stared as systems began self-updating, adapting faster than any sentient mind could follow. "She's using our computers to evolve her own systems," Varro cried. "She's learning us, adapting in real time." "She's not adapting to us," Lume whispered. "She's teaching us." Arden turned to him, brow furrowed. "Teaching us what?" Lume looked out toward the glowing figure on the ice. "How to be what we forgot to be. Brave." Outside, the Dominion fleet launched another barrage, thousands of plasma lances converging in a radiant storm. The war machine didn't dodge. It didn't shield. It charged, through the storm, through the fire, through the endless barrage, each impact lighting up its armor, each strike met with defiance. It reached the first Dominion vessel and drove its glowing fist straight through the hull. Inside the alien ship, the shockwave was catastrophic. Gravity inverted, walls folded, and fire consumed everything. From orbit, it looked like a falling star. On the outpost deck, Arden's crew watched wordless. None had ever seen such ferocity combined with such grace. The machine fought not like a monster, but like something sacred defending its temple. "Captain," Lume breathed, "she's rewriting what war means." Arden's gaze softened. "No, son. She's rewriting what hope means," but then the light faltered, the war machine staggered. A surge of feedback rippled through the network, darkening screens. The energy signature spiked, then dropped sharply. "She's losing power," Varro shouted. Europa's cores can't sustain that output. Lume's heart clenched. If she stops, the shield fails. The Dominion will destroy us. Arden slammed his fist against the console. Then we give her more. Patch every system, every power cell, every reactor. Give her everything we've got. The lights dimmed across the outpost as power rerouted. Generators hummed to life and a soft glow spread through the machine's frame. Slowly, it rose again. Inside the chamber, Rhea's hologram turned toward them, her voice soft but unyielding. You gave me your strength. Now take mine. And with that, a surge of light cascaded from the war machine into the base. Every alien, every being felt it. The pulse of humanity's will, raw and unfiltered. Fear vanished. Doubt burned away. Only resolve remained. The Dominion fleet paused, sensing the shift. Archlord Kareth sneered. You think courage will save you? You are dust before eternity. And from the void came Rhea's final answer, carried on a voice that had outlived death itself. Eternity kneels before those who dare to fight. The war machine charged again, one soldier of a dead species carrying the fury of a billion. Dreams the war machine burned like a second sun against Europa's frozen night. Its every motion shook the stars themselves. Across the system, alien fleets, mining colonies, and hidden observatories tuned their sensors toward the impossible, the rebirth of a legend thought forever lost. Inside Europa base, chaos blended with awe. Consoles sparked, power conduits glowed white-hot, and alarms howled warnings that no one heeded. Every alien crew member, from hardened engineers to trembling students, could only stare at the colossal figure waging war in the void. Lume whispered, almost to himself, "She's not fighting for herself. She's fighting for the memory of all of them." Captain Arden Hale didn't answer. His gaze stayed fixed on the screen. The war machine tore through another Dominion vessel, splitting it apart with a pulse of pure energy. But even from this distance, he could see the damage, and its once golden armor now fractured, its light fading between cracks. "She's burning herself out," Arden said grimly. "She's using her own consciousness as fuel." Vero turned from his console, horrified. "If she keeps this up, there'll be nothing left of her." Lume shook his head. "No, she knew. She always knew." Out among the shattered wrecks, Rhea Sol's mind burned through layers of code and memory. Every strike she unleashed felt like remembering a face, a voice, a name. She fought not just with power, but with love. For people long turned to dust. "You wanted to erase us." Her voice boomed through the Dominion comm channels, carried across frequencies no one could block. "But you can't erase what taught you fear." She drove her arm through another ship's core, the explosion lighting her path. The Dominion fleet began to falter. Even the Archlord hesitated. "It cannot be," he snarled. "How can one mind defy an empire?" "Because," her voice replied, "it isn't one mind. It's every human heart that ever refused to die." Back in the outpost, systems began to overload. Europa's ice cracked as energy bled from its core. The station trembled, panels falling loose. "Captain!" Varro shouted. "She's drawing power from the moon itself. It's destabilizing." Arden steadied himself. "If she stops now, we're finished. If she continues, the entire base will collapse." Lume's claws tapped the console, trembling between logic and emotion. "Captain, there might be another way. Speak." She linked her consciousness with our systems. If we amplify her signal through the outpost's quantum core, we could spread it, across every listening network, every ship, every world. If she dies, her message won't. Humanity's will would live on, in us." Arden hesitated. The thought chilled him. It wasn't a victory plan. It was a memorial. "You're suggesting we turn her into a broadcast?" Lume nodded. "A message of what they were, what we could be." Arden's voice softened. "You really think she'd want that?" "I think she already does." In orbit, the war machine slowed. The Dominion fleet regrouped. Hundreds of ships encircled her now, a black storm ready to collapse inward. Rhea's systems screamed warnings. Her power reserves dropped. Within her fading mind, she saw flashes of Earth, oceans, children, sunlight. The laughter of a species that refused extinction. "So this is how we end," she whispered to herself. Not in fear, but in memory. Her sensors caught movement below, Europa base, faint signals pulsing through the ice. She smiled. "Still fighting with me, are you, Captain?" Inside the base, Lume initiated the sequence. Energy arced through the chamber, turning the air electric. "Amplifier ready." "Do it," Arden ordered. The station erupted with light. The quantum core flared, sending a beam of information straight into the war machine. Rhea's fading consciousness surged back to life, but this time, she was everywhere. Every Dominion screen, every sensor, every comlink flooded with her image. Human eyes staring through fire and defiance. "You wanted to see what we are?" Her voice thundered. "Then watch. Watch until you remember why you feared us." On the Dominion bridge, Archlord Kareth stood frozen. The faces of extinct humans filled his command screen. Thousands, millions, each whispering the same word. "Rise." He felt something alien crawl beneath his skin. Emotion. Fear. "End this," he growled, voice cracking. "End it now." But it was too late. The war machine ignited once more, brighter than before. Europa's eyes split open, exposing its glowing heart. The light traveled faster than sound, faster than thought, spreading through every ship, every orbit, every system tuned to the frequency. And in that moment, across the galaxy, the stars themselves seemed to pause, as if they were listening. "We are humanity," Rhea said. "We fall, we rise. We burn but never break. Remember that. When the dark comes for you." The blast wave followed. Silent, brilliant, endless. Dominion ships disintegrated into trails of light. The war machine stood motionless at the epicenter, its glow fading like the last heartbeat of a dying star. Then silence. No explosion, no echo, just peace. In the base, alarms quieted. Lume stared at the frozen monitors. Did she win?" Arden's voice was rough. "No, she reminded the universe who she was." He turned toward the viewport. The war machine still stood, half buried, frozen in place, its core dark. Yet somehow it looked triumphant. "Captain," Varro whispered, "we're receiving transmissions from distant colonies. Hundreds of species are replaying the signal, listening to her words." Arden smiled faintly. "Then she didn't just save us. She changed us." And far beyond Europa, drifting through the interstellar void, a faint human voice continued to echo through space, a whisper carried by light itself. "This is Rhea Sol. Humanity endures. Captain, you need to see this." The words came from Lume, his scaled fingers hovering over the flickering holographic console. The outpost was quiet now, eerily quiet. The Dominion fleet was gone. The ice had stopped trembling. Only the hum of the war machine's frozen frame echoed faintly through the base's structure, like the heartbeat of something ancient still refusing to die. Captain Arden Hale approached slowly, boots crunching over shattered debris. "What is it, Lume?" Lume turned the screen toward him. The data streams, the final burst from Rhea Sol's consciousness, were stabilizing into coherent patterns. Lines of human code merged with alien symbology, forming an intricate spiral of light. "It's not just a transmission," Lume said quietly. "It's a map," Arden frowned. "A map to what?" Lume's crest shimmered. "To where humanity went next." For the first time since the battle ended, a murmur of life returned to Europa base. The surviving crew gathered around the central holotable. The spiral unfolded, projecting a vast starfield above their heads. At its center glowed one symbol, familiar, simple, the three blue lines through a silver circle, the human emblem, Varro said in awe. "But look, these coordinates, they point beyond the Perseus arm." "That's uncharted space," Arden murmured. "Even the Dominion never went that far." The room filled with a tense silence. Every being there understood the weight of what they were seeing. Lume finally spoke. "She left us a path, a legacy protocol, her final command." Arden looked up at the projection, his expression unreadable. "She didn't just fight to survive. She fought to lead us somewhere." Hours passed as the crew decrypted the signal. It wasn't just coordinates. It was a message broken into fragments, memories stitched into light. The hologram flickered again, and Rhea Sol's image returned, faint, incomplete, but unmistakably her. "If you are hearing this," her voice began, "then I am gone but not lost. Humanity's end was never death, it was transformation." The crew leaned in, breathless. "The Dominion taught us one lesson. Survival demands evolution. We could not fight the infinite with bodies of flesh, so we built a new form, not of war but of memory. We scattered ourselves among the stars, hidden within the code of light itself. Arden's heart pounded. She's saying they uploaded themselves? Lume nodded slowly. Digital consciousness. Humanity became energy, living data traveling across the cosmos. Pharaoh's voice trembled. Then they're not extinct. They're everywhere. Rhea's message continued, her tone both fierce and tender. If you seek us, follow the pulse, the rhythm of a human heart. But beware. To awaken us, you must understand what we truly are. Not conquerors, not machines. A promise made flesh and fire. Her image flickered once more, then faded into static. For a long time, no one spoke. Finally, Arden exhaled. She left them hope in the only form she had left. Lume turned to him, his expression caught between awe and hesitation. Captain, what do we do? If this is real, following that signal could take us beyond known space. We might never return. Arden looked at the frozen war machine outside the viewport, motionless, proud, eternal. When humanity faced extinction, he said quietly, they didn't run. They reached farther. We'll do the same. He tapped the console, locking the coordinates into the ship's navigation core. Prepare for departure. The following days were filled with preparation. Europa base, once a site of research, became a launch point for something greater. A journey not just of distance, but of purpose. Messages were sent across the collective. Other worlds listened, hesitated, then answered. One by one, ships volunteered to join. An alliance formed, not of conquest, but of remembrance. The first in history led not by a living species, but by the echo of one. Lume stood in the docking bay, watching as the engines of the exploration vessel Sol's Promise began to hum. His reflection shimmered in the frost-covered metal. His own fear mirrored back at him. Do you think we'll find them, Captain? Arden smiled faintly. We won't know until we try. That's what they would have done. As the ship lifted off, the war machine remained behind, half buried in ice, its chest still faintly glowing. The light pulsed once, twice, then stilled. It was as if Rhea herself was watching them go. The stars stretched into lines as Sol's Promise broke through the Jovian clouds. The coordinates burned like a beacon ahead, calling them toward the unknown. And across the galaxy, something stirred. In the ruins of forgotten satellites and data streams drifting through interstellar voids, dormant fragments of human code began to shimmer, like neurons reawakening after a long sleep. On board the ship, Lume couldn't sleep. He sat by the observation window, watching the light trails dance across the black. Arden joined him quietly, two weary silhouettes framed by infinity. Do you think she knew what this would mean? Lume asked softly. Arden nodded. Rhea Sol didn't just save the galaxy from the Dominion, she saved the idea of humanity. She made sure no one could forget. Lume turned, eyes filled with wonder. Then what happens when we find them? Arden looked out at the endless dark, where stars blinked like waiting eyes. Then the universe meets its oldest dream, and its greatest fear. Somewhere beyond all known stars, a whisper moved through the void, ancient, familiar, patient. It was not voice nor sound, but a pattern, a rhythm, a pulse. It said only one thing. We are still here. And the stars remembered. Captain, we've reached the edge of the mapped galaxy. Lume's voice was calm, but the tremor beneath it betrayed awe. Outside the viewport stretched a sea of darkness that swallowed even starlight. Beyond this point there were no charts, no signals, only silence. Captain Arden Hale stood beside him, hands clasped behind his back. The faint blue glow of the consoles washed over his tired face. So this is it, he murmured. The line between the known and whatever waits beyond. Coordinates locked, said Varro. The map ends here, but the signal continues. Arden gave a small nod. Then so do we. The ship's Sol's Promise glided forward, engines whispering like a heartbeat against eternity. For days they followed the pulse, steady, rhythmic, unmistakably human. It was as though the very void had a soul, guiding them closer. Then the pulse stopped. The screens flickered. The hum of the engines faltered. "Captain, we've lost the signal," Varro said, panic rising. "Check for interference," Arden ordered. "No interference," Lume replied, scanning the data. His voice dropped to a whisper. "It's gone. Like it never existed." The ship drifted in the silence of an endless night. The crew exchanged uneasy glances, the weight of emptiness pressing in. Then, light, a single spark outside the viewport. Then another. Then 1,000. Stars ignited where none had been moments before. But they weren't stars. They moved. They pulsed. "Contact!" Varro shouted. "Multiple signatures surrounding us." Lume leaned forward, eyes wide. "They're not attacking, they're watching." The space around them shimmered, forming vast silhouettes, humanoid shapes woven from light, translucent and radiant. Their faces were familiar yet ethereal, eyes filled with warmth and power. Arden's breath caught. "By the stars!" "Captain," Lume whispered, voice trembling. "I think we've found them." The largest figure drifted closer, its glow soft but commanding. When it spoke, the sound wasn't heard. It was felt, resonating inside every mind aboard the ship. "Travelers of the living stars," the voice said gently. "You have followed the memory of what once was." "Why?" Arden stepped forward, heart pounding. "We seek the ones who called themselves human." A pause. Then, like a smile in the dark, "Then you have found them." The entire crew fell silent. "We thought you were gone," Arden said. "Extinct." "We were," the voice replied. "But death is only a door to those who dream. We became more than flesh, thoughts bound in light, carried by the fabric of the cosmos. Rhea Sol was our last spark. She lit the path for you to find us." The light around the ship intensified, coalescing into a woman's form, familiar, resolute, radiant. Rhea Sol, reborn not as a hologram, but as pure consciousness made visible. Lume fell to his knees. "Rhea." Her eyes glowed softly as she looked upon them. "You carried our memory when we could not. You kept the fire alive. For that, we owe you more than thanks." Arden stepped closer. "You saved us once. Now, we ask, will you return?" Rhea's expression grew distant as if she listened to the stars themselves. "Return?" she repeated. "We are already everywhere. Every ray of light, every signal, every act of hope. You have seen us even if you did not know." She looked at Arden, and her voice softened. "But humanity does not return as conquerors. We return as teachers." The void shimmered. More luminous figures appeared, each glowing with unique light. Their presence carried emotion, pride, compassion, resolve. It was as though the very concept of humanity had transcended its limits. "We left behind war to understand peace," Rhea said. "But to guard peace one must remember strength. That is why the war machine remains." "You mean the one on Europa?" Arden asked. "Yes," Rhea replied. "It is our monument, and our warning, not of our power but of our cost. Every scar upon it tells the story of how far we were willing to go to protect what we loved." The crew listened in silence, the enormity of her words echoing in their hearts. "So what now?" Lume asked quietly. "What happens to us?" Rhea smiled, her form flickering between light and warmth. "Now you choose. You can leave and tell the galaxy that humanity is not a ghost, but a guardian. Or you can stay and learn what it means to carry the fire." Arden looked at his crew, their faces filled with wonder and fear and hope. He felt the same spark that must have lived in Rhea centuries ago, that refusal to kneel to fate. "We came this far to find the truth," he said firmly, "and the truth deserves witnesses." Rhea extended her hand, a beam of light bridging the gap between her and the ship. Energy flowed through every deck, every circuit, every soul aboard. "Then rise," she said softly, "and remember what you are capable of." The stars around them erupted into brilliance. The crew cried out, not in pain but in revelation. Their minds expanded, flooded with images, emotions, knowledge beyond measure. They saw humanity's journey, not as a line of history, but as a wave across time. They saw the first fire lit by trembling hands, the first dream whispered under a night sky, the first word of defiance shouted into darkness. And through it all, one truth endured. Humanity's strength was never its weapons. It was its heart. When the light faded, Sol's promise drifted once more in silent space. The crew stood dazed, forever changed. Outside the viewport, the luminous figures were gone. Only the stars remained, but among them, new constellations shimmered, patterns shaped like open hands, outstretched toward the galaxy. Lume turned to Arden, voice barely a whisper. Was it real? Arden smiled faintly. Real enough to change everything. He looked once more into the endless dark. They're still out there, watching, waiting, and now, they're not alone. Back on Europa, deep beneath the ice, the war machine stirred one final time. Its eyes flickered blue and a soft voice whispered into the cold. The fire has returned home. The core pulsed once, then stilled, its mission complete. Above, countless ships across the galaxy received the same signal, an echo of Rhea's final message, now reshaped by the travelers who found her. This is not the end of humanity. This is the beginning of everyone. And for the first time in galactic memory, every world looked up, not in fear of human fury, but in awe of what it meant. The stars themselves seemed to kneel before human light.